Grimstone is arriving today for a sneak inspection. The color drained from Barnaby's face, leaving it a sickly shade of grey. Grimstone was known as Iron Pants for a reason, and it wasn't because he had a sturdy tailor. He was the most rigid, rule-following, fun-hating officer in the entire Federation. Iron Pants Grimstone? Barnaby whispered. Today. Have you seen this place, Crispin? The sinks in the Petty Officers Club are backing up. The barracks smell like a fermentation experiment gone wrong, and we have McQuirk. Quentin Quick Fix McQuirk was the commander of the PT-73, a boat that was held together by spit, prayer, and several rolls of high-grade duct tape. McQuirk and his crew were the bane of Barnaby's existence, a group of cutthroats who treated the war like a prolonged beach vacation. Crispin, Barnaby said, a dark light dawning in his eyes. I feel a fever coming on. A terrible, incapacitating, completely not fake fever. Chapter 2. The Acting Commandant. The plan was simple, according to Barnaby's twisted logic. If he was deathly ill, he couldn't be held responsible for the state of the base. Better yet, he could appoint McQuirk as the acting base commander. McQuirk would inevitably burn the place down or start a riot within an hour, and Grimstone would have no choice but to court-martial him into oblivion. Oh, the agony. Barnaby moaned, draped over his desk, as McQuirk entered the office. Commander McQuirk was a man who exuded an aura of calm so profound it was borderline insulting. He wore his cap at an angle that defied the laws of both the Navy and physics. Behind him trailed Ensign Percy, Panic Puddles, a young man who looked like he had been born in the middle of a jump scare. Captain, you look purple, McQuirk noted, leaning against the doorframe. I am dying, McQuirk. The spotted neon ague. It's highly contagious, probably. Barnaby gasped. I must go to the infirmary immediately. Crispin, call the medics. Tell them to bring the extra-large stretcher. Sir, you're too brave, Crispin sobbed, playing along with the enthusiasm of a theater student. McQuirk. Barnaby grabbed McQuirk's sleeve. I am appointing you, acting base commander. You are in charge. The base, the men, the backed-up sinks. It's all yours. And Puddles, you are the acting executive officer. Puddles turned a shade of white that suggested he had seen his own ghost. Me? Executive? Sir, I can't even execute a parallel park. Take command, Barnaby shouted, before being hauled away by two medics who looked suspiciously like they were trying not to laugh. As the captain was wheeled out, McQuirk sat in the big chair and propped his feet up on the desk. Well, Puddles. First order of business. Cancel the 8 drills and move happy hour to 9. But sir, Admiral Grimstone is coming, Puddles wailed. Exactly, McQuirk smiled. And we wouldn't want the Admiral to arrive at a boring base, would we? Chapter 3. The Glow Dancer Incident. By noon, Isla de Cayos had undergone a transformation. The barbed wire was decorated with hibiscus flowers. The mess hall was serving grilled pineapple and non-regulation punch. McQuirk was running the base via a series of suggestions rather than orders. However, the garter belt crisis was still looming. Skip, shouted Chief Miller, the crew's resident mechanical genius. The garter belts arrived. But there's a problem. They're the wrong size. They're big enough to hold up a sail. Don't tell me. Tell the supply officer, McQuirk said. Then remembered he was the supply officer. Wait, I have an idea. Give them to the glow dancers the boys hired for the party tonight. It'll be a local cultural exchange. What party? Puddles asked, his left eye twitching. The party to welcome the Admiral. Just then, the roar of a transport plane echoed over the lagoon. Grand Admiral Grimstone had arrived. Grimstone stepped off the plane, looking like he had been carved out of granite. He didn't walk. He marched with a rhythmic thump that made the sand tremble. Barnaby, watching from his hospital window, rubbed his hands together in glee. Now, Barnaby whispered. Now the massacre begins. Grimstone marched straight to the command office. He found Puddles, who was currently trying to hide a tray of tropical drinks behind a stack of maps. You, Grimstone barked. Where is Bumblesnout? He's indisposed, sir. Spotted neon ague. Very tragic. I'm Ensign Puddles, your acting executive officer. Welcome to Isla de Chaos, sir. Would you like a lei? Or perhaps a beverage with a small umbrella? Grimstone stared at the lei in Puddles' hand, as if it were a live snake. At the Cultural Integration Center, Puddles stammered. The Cultural Integration Center was, in reality, the air raid shelter, which was currently vibrating with the sound of drums and the clinking of coins. McQuirk had convinced the local glow dancers to perform for the men. When Grimstone burst into the shelter, he was met with the sight of 20 sailors dancing with local performers, everyone wearing garter belts as improvised headbands. McQuirk! Barnaby's voice suddenly joined the fray. He had recovered instantly upon hearing the commotion, determined to witness the Admiral's wrath. Admiral, look at this, an orgy, a Roman orgy, in our defensive structures. Grimstone looked around. He looked at the dancers. He looked at the punch. He looked at McQuirk. Is this a party? Grimstone asked, his voice low and dangerous. A cultural orientation, sir, McQuirk corrected smoothly, to familiarize the men with the customs of our allies. And, the garter belts? They're, traditional headdresses representing the bonds of friendship. Barnaby pointed a trembling finger at the dancers. He's lying. He's a pirate. Court-martial him. Grimstone took a sip of the punch that a dancer had handed him. He paused. He took another sip. Bumble snout, Grimstone said. In 30 years, no one has ever offered me punch this good. And the morale, the men seem quite integrated. Barnaby's jaw hit the floor. But the regulations are for people who can't throw a good party, Barnaby, Grimstone said, surprisingly. However, the casino stays in the shelter. I'm going to go play a round of neon blackjack. McQuirk, carry on. Chapter 4. The Maharaja of Mock Orange. A week later, once the Admiral had departed with a suitcase full of pineapples, a new crisis arrived. Sir, Crispin shouted, rushing into Barnaby's office. We have a VIP visit. The Maharaja of Mock Orange and his 3 daughters, the princesses, are arriving. Their yacht broke down near the reefs. We have to rescue them. Barnaby saw another chance for glory. Rescue them? I'll send McQuirk. If he insults a Maharaja, it's an international incident. I'll be rid of him for sure. McQuirk and the PT-73 crew headed out to the reef. They found the Maharaja, a man draped in so many jewels he was a walking navigation hazard, and 3 very beautiful, very bored-looking princesses. Greetings, O exalted one, McQuirk said, bowing low. I am Commander McQuirk. We are here to transport you to the base. The Maharaja looked at the PT-73. This? It has character, Your Highness, McQuirk said. On the ride back, Ensign Puddles managed to trip over his own feet and fall directly into the lap of the eldest Princess Siri. Wowie, wow, wow, Puddles exclaimed, his face turning a shade of red that matched his life jacket. I heard that, young man, the Maharaja roared. Do not debase the dignity of the princesses. The next man who stares will answer to my ceremonial scimitar. Back at the base, Barnaby was preparing a grand banquet. He had decided that to truly impress the Maharaja, he needed to show off the Navy's sophistication. However, disaster struck. Princess Siri and the other 2 sisters decided they wanted a moonlight boat ride and convinced Puddles to borrow the boat while Barnaby was busy dressing. Puddles, you can't take the boat, McQuirk hissed as he saw them leaving the dock. But Skip, she called me pussycat. I couldn't say no, Puddles cried as the PT-73 roared into the night. 20 minutes later, the engines conked out in the middle of a minefield. We're stuck, Puddles wailed. McQuirk, hearing the distress call, realized they had to stall Barnaby. Sir, McQuirk said, entering the banquet hall where Barnaby and the Maharaja were waiting. The princesses. They are performing a sacred ritual of silence and dressing. They cannot be disturbed. A ritual? How long? Barnaby asked suspiciously. could be hours, McQuirk said. In the meantime, why don't you try this traditional